everyone, welcome back to Spare Room Studio. Today I'm colouring a page in Pirates by Hampson, and this is a buddy colour with my friends Kate at Quilly Socks and Harriet at Wonky Bombats 1 on Instagram. I'll put their details in the description box below. We all enjoy working in this book and don't see it on Instagram too often, and we have been rather enjoying our little chats as we work and do different pages and so on. So I am getting this book out more often, which I'm really happy about. My book is Amazon Australia printed, of course, and this is actually the older version book. So the paper is a little bit, I don't know that it's heavier, but it does feel a little bit more substantial than some of the newer books that I've received. And it does cope with water, although it does buckle and cockle, but I actually got an iron out on a low heat and ironed the page once it was complete, and it came up pretty well. So I'm using Royal Talens Pantone markers here. Royal Talens Australia kindly sent me a box of 9 colours that I enjoyed working with so much that I actually went to my local art store to have a look at them, and just amazingly coincidental, they are actually on sale at the moment in my local art store, which makes them much more affordable for me to buy some extra colours. And I've bought colours that I either gravitate to on a regular basis no matter what medium I'm using, or colours that I thought would be really useful for mixing and blending with what I already have, and also with other different types of markers. So on this plate here you can see the colours that I'm using. Of those colours, only one of those came from the set of 9 colours that Royal Talens sent me, and the rest have been purchased myself from my art store. So the markers themselves are refillable, and also at the same time they have a really good sale on with the refillable inks. So I've made sure that I pick quite a few of the colours that I think I'm going to get the most use out of, and that will keep me going for quite some time. So with this page, I really had, again, no plans. Quite often I sit down to colour a page and I really have absolutely no idea where I'm going with it, and I certainly don't visualise what it's going to look like. This is actually the second copy in the book that I'm colouring. I have already coloured the first section, the version in the first section of the book, and this is the original book, so it doesn't have duplicates with a difference. It is 2 copies of the same image. So I had a look at how I coloured the original one, and I used coloured pencils for the first one, and I used very vibrant colours to do a sky that looked like a sunset sky. So other than doing it differently to that page, I had no plans when I sat down to colour. I just looked at the colours that I had here in these markers, and I predominantly wanted to try some of the newer colours that I bought myself. So for example, this one is not in that original set of 9 colours, and I think I'm going to get quite a lot of use out of these 2 lighter natural colours that I picked up. So what I've been doing is what I do with most of my water-based markers, regardless of what they are or how they're marketed for their use. I always want to have a go at diluting the ink and working with them as a watercolour wash. And in this instance, obviously, when there's a lot of sky or there's water, I nearly always want to have a go at using diluted washes first and build the colour up. And then what I've done here is also worked with the markers directly on the paper as they have been designed to be used. So I've used a combination of techniques on this one, and that's because the subject kind of dictates it. The boat is going to be much more solid looking than what water or sky is going to be. And so putting the details back into the boat with the marker directly with that solid saturated colour just seemed the more natural thing to do. So that's what I've done. I've been thinking about this quite a bit recently. I do have a few questions to answer because the channel has now reached 4,000 subscribers, and I did ask a few weeks ago if there were any questions that you'd like me to address and talk about in a video. So I will be doing that. But looking at those questions has made me start thinking about some of the answers for them. And one of the questions was, do I have a plan or see the page in my mind before I actually create it? And definitely not. Creating original art is a little bit different to colouring in a colouring book for me. So when I'm creating an original art piece, or have in the past, and recently drawing in a sketchbook, more often than not, you have an idea that you want to pursue or explore. But with a colouring book, the work is done for me, the image is already there, and I tend to use my colouring books very much as a tool for relaxing and a tool for exploring possibility with what the supplies can do for me or the medium can do for me. So it's much more about playing around with whatever the paper will allow me to get away with. So I push and push what I can do to see what the paper will cope with, and play with the mediums and art supplies for no purpose other than just to play. So no other purpose than just the enjoyment of watching the colours unfold, the feeling of that particular medium, whether it be watercolour, pencil, marker, alcohol marker, whatever it is, just whatever properties that particular art medium has and what that can provide for me. It's just the experience of using it. And then at the end of it, I have no other plan than to close the book, and I might not look at it again for months. Sometimes I don't even look at the pages again until I'm flipping through to find a new page to colour. So, pardon me. It's all very much about being in the moment for me. So that's why, I don't really plan anything, and I just go with whatever the mood is on that particular day at that particular time. And so that's why sometimes you'll see me go through periods of time where you'll see a lot of alcohol marker pages in a row, or you might see a lot of watercolour pages in a row, or you might see several pages in 1 month from one book, or whatever, because I tend to go with what is enjoyable in the moment. And if I'm particularly enjoying something, I run with it, and I'll keep doing that book or that medium or whatever until I feel like I've exhausted the ideas and the possibility of that particular tool or medium. And then something else catches my attention and I go and run with that for a while. So I don't, I think that's why I don't do the planning aspect of this hobby very well either, because I don't like to be committed to too much. I just want to run with it at any given time, depending on how I feel on that day at that moment. So here you can see that the page is cockling and bending quite a bit. I've used an extraordinary amount of water really for an Amazon printed book, so it's not unusual for pages to look like this when I'm working on them. But I end up using the hairdryer to dry it off, and then I use an iron on a very low heat. I put several sheets of copy paper front and back of the page I'm working on, and with a low heat and a light touch I ironed it, and it came up pretty well. Now you have to be careful with Amazon printed books. I find that the ink that they use does not respond very well to heat, and it will transfer the image, so you need to be really careful if you try this with an Amazon printed book. So I did consider for a while doing gel crayons or something different for the background, but in the end I decided to keep the look very consistent, so I went with the diluted washes of colour, but I put those big clouds in there just to break it up a little bit and make it a bit quicker and easier to do the background there. I didn't really put too much thought into it. As you can see, it's quite amateurish sort of cartoon looking clouds, but I didn't really want that to be the focus either, and I feel like it sort of works with the fun energy that R.J. Hampson's images have, and especially this one with the pirate ship. You know, it was a lot of fun and it wasn't meant to be taken too seriously, so I just put those clouds in very quickly, and I'm happy with the way it turned out. So by ironing the page, what that did for me was it meant that I didn't have those sort of valleys or troughs in the paper for the water and the diluted ink to run into, so it became a bit easier for touching up things in the background and the water and so on. So when I start, I put colour all over the page, and I try to start reasonably lightly so that it gives me options further down the track, and then I come back to it at this stage and I think, okay, it's rather flat and monotonous. Where can I add some interest? Where can I strengthen some colour? Where does it need to be livened up a little bit? And that's when I start bringing in bolder colour, deeper colour and so on to create some interest. I also wanted to keep using these particular markers that I bought. When I get new markers or new colours, I'm always keen to keep using them and see what they can do for me when I buy something new. So I decided to bring in some pencil, and these Bruinzeel pencils are rather old. I've probably had them maybe 15 years or something like that. I don't use them a lot. The feeling of them, the composition of them, it's not great on all paper, so you have to find paper with a bit of tooth, I think, to get the best out of them. But you can see there that there are some colours that I obviously gravitate to more than others. And when I look at all of my sets of pencils or anything really, even markers, you'll find that I generally have the same colours over and over that I don't reach for. And yellow is one of them. So I tend to use yellow for highlighting, but I find it a difficult colour to work with. So I think I need to challenge myself to get more comfortable with yellow. But you can see that green is most definitely something I use a lot of. It's a colour I really love. And also natural colours and lighter browns, anything that I could use for A skin tone used to get used a lot because I did a lot of life drawing and portrait type work when I was creating my own drawings and original artwork. So if you have a lot of different sets of pencils, maybe have a look yourself and see whether you have something that you gravitate towards. I don't always realise I'm doing it until I open up a set of pencils like this, and I think it's quite obvious the colours that I tend to reach for the most. Especially with a limited set too. Sometimes there's colours in limited sets that I would really rather they weren't there, and I'd rather have something different instead. But yeah, it's interesting to see that. So I didn't want to cover the markers up completely. I just wanted to add a little bit of texture and some extra interest, and that's all I'm doing with the pencils, very lightly. It does seem to be the only reason I get my pencils out lately. I don't do many pages where they are completely coloured in pencil these days. I like the variety of just bringing them in at the end for some detail and you know, helping to strengthen some of the tone up. So I hope you've enjoyed seeing this. It's obviously had large sections cut out. I just really wanted you to see the overall process of how I approach the page. I think this was a good example of seeing the way that the page in general comes together, you know, my general working style. And also I thought it might be interesting for you to see a little bit more of the Pantone markers in action. Thanks for joining me. I'll see you again really soon. Bye now.